Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello, people, and welcome to Footy Judge. More people. Arsenal is going to renew Trossard, of course. And are they serious? A lot of people are actually fuming about that. There are news about Saka, Timba, and Calafiori not being in the training, which is going to be a disaster. We know that Arsenal are without Ben White for a while. So if Calafiori and Timba are not there, it's going to be a disaster. So big up everybody that is here. We got, of course, Jess joining us for the first time on this channel, of course. She knows Arsenal. She's been back on streaming daily now or something, or every other day. So she's here with us talking all Arsenal, of course. We got Martin joining us after a while. After he decided not to talk in the international break about Arsenal. But there he is.
I spoke last Tuesday. It wasn't actually that long ago. But there hasn't been anything to talk about, so no.
There's always something to talk about Arsenal, bro. It's Arsenal.
Big up Jess, by the way, big fan. And Daud, I was surprised. Lee was on the thumbnail, so I was like, what the heck?
It was a last minute thing change, and now Lee might not make it. And it just, you know how it is. You confirmed, Jess confirmed. But listen, Giuseppe said he can't make it. But listen, big up everybody that's here. Hit that like button if you just guys here. And if you're watching us on the replay, the first thing you do is hit that like button underneath your live chat, underneath the video. It helps the channel massively. I want to thank everybody. We reached 27,300 subscribers. That was great, actually, overnight. So big up everybody that is here. And listen, let's just get into it. And, you know, Daud, how are you doing? Oh, you're so sad.
I'm good. Yeah, happy to be back again on the stream.
Yeah, it's very strange after the last stream when people said Daud is the most reasonable guy in the Arsenal fan community in the current moment.
I know that's if I'm the most reasonable guy at the moment right now, then yeah, we need to sort each other out, man, because it's been a real like civil war recently, the past couple of weeks. And
civil war. It's just people change their opinions actually about Arsenal lately.
Nah,
it's not civil. I've seen Jess starting to question people on Twitter and the decisions and subs and market targets and all this stuff. I've seen you change your opinion. The only one that hasn't changed his opinion is Martin. He hasn't. He's still back in Arteta all the way.
No, what I was saying is the extremes have gone a bit. The Arteta in and Arteta out is getting, you know, further and further apart more than since he was struggling at the beginning of the season. Beginning of it is Arsenal tenure. I think that's when it's starting.
I actually disagree with you. I actually think the spectrum now, I think actually now it's a full spectrum. It's not polar extremes. I actually think today, if you talk to the Arsenal community and all the guys that I work with, I have a lot of Arsenal people that I work with, right? Now there is a spectrum. 2-3 months ago, it was either you are full on with Arteta, with the team, you're behind the team, or you just hate everything about the club and you just want everyone out, sack them all, get them all out. They're all garbage or trash. Now, like, for example, you, Daud, you're like in the middle now. You're like, oh, I'm not Arteta out, but I'm also going to question things. Jess is the same now in the middle. Martin is still on that side. There are people that moved in between Brandon, who might join us in a bit as well, Brandon. He's like now in the middle. He's like, it's kind of like in the middle. Do you guys feel that now?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I do.
I don't really think it matters. I think he's got till the end of the season regardless. Like, I think he's earned that. So we continue having this daily conversation, no, but my opinion hasn't changed until the end of the season.
No, you said even if he comes 10 and wins the Carabao Cup, he's in.
No.
Don't change that.
I didn't say that.
You don't like the Carabao Cup, but he said it doesn't matter what the circumstances are. You would like him to stay at the club.
No, I said that if there's a clear decline, then he's got to go. But I don't think we need to worry about sacking him. I think he'll walk himself at the end of the season if it's not.
You really think Arteta's going to quit Arsenal?
He nearly did after the first challenge. Apparently he said that, well, he said afterwards that he was questioning his own abilities to do better the next season. I don't know. I feel like with Edu leaving, it's put all the pressure on Arteta. There's nowhere to run. And if we don't hit big targets, then people are going to be crying justifiably. But
what are big targets then? Can we start by that? What are the big targets that people think they are? Like for Arsenal, now with Pep renewing, what are the big targets? Like, what are they? Premier League, Champions Leagues? What are they? Can you define big targets?
You know what they are. The things that will keep people happy is the Premier League or Champions League. Maybe if we won the Carabao and the FA Cup, people would be like, that's all right, domestic double. But the amount of hype up that this team's had over the past 2 years is, people have to go completely extreme the other way if things go bad, because otherwise it just looks like they've got no standards for themselves,
But you think they are wrong? I know that.
I think you're putting words in my mouth again. I think that my time of defending.
I'm trying, though. I'm trying. It's my job, though. It's fine. It's my job.
I feel like I'm over. I've done my job. He lasted this long. He's been given a chance. He's been given a chance to sign players. I told you not signing a striker was gross negligence in the summer. I said it was a 5 out of 10 window. So I feel like they've made a rod for their own backs, and I don't have to jump into fights anymore and try and talk people down from the edge. If you want him gone, that's fine. I think that's just.
Listen, it's not about that. I'm not gonna let the other people talk because me and you do a lot of shows. But at the same time, I'm looking at Arsenal. I said that on the football terrace yesterday, and I got a lot of heat from that. I said, I'm gonna repeat this again for the people that are watching this. Guys, it's 500 people here. Hit that like button. Big up everybody that joined us from the football terrace community. Make sure to like the video when you're walking in. Let's get to 200 likes. The longest serving manager at a top club now without a Premier League or a Champions League. No matter where you were, it has to be some targets to be met. And these targets cannot be, okay, I'm close, I'm good, I'm improving. Yes, the improvement has happened. No one can deny that Arteta has done a phenomenal job to bring back, to have me as a neutral content creator, having most of my shows talk about Arsenal. That means he has done a good job already, by bringing you and the club to be a talking point again across Europe, to have a world-class defender or a great defender like Saliba being targeted by Real Madrid, by having Isak, one of the best wingers in the world, by having Declan Rice choosing you over Manchester City, no matter what the circumstances are. That is down to his work and him making Arsenal a team now in the picture. And instead of being a 5th or a 6th or a 7th, that is his job. But at some point, you got to stop and look and say, well, maybe there has to be a hard targets now than being a good team. That is the whole point, right?
I don't want to keep talking because I've got other great guests here, but I will just say that for me, fundamentally, it's about what you believe the higher probability chance is. The guy that's built a team and has shown upward progression and is still learning on the job, I still think he's got a long way to go as far as being a manager is concerned, and I think he'll win stuff somewhere else if we let him go. But some people think that if we bring in an experienced manager and it's a lock for Premier League and Champions League, which I don't think it's actually going to happen. So we'll just have to find out if the fan base wants to go with a new guy. Look, 5 years is a long time in the Premier League. Not many managers have lasted that. Maybe 10 in the whole thing. So, you just got to roll with the punches. And if we're going to rebuild the squad again and go through all that kind of stuff, then so be it. I'll just be I'll be the next guy out just for entertainment's sake before they come in.
Go ahead, if anybody. Jess, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just waiting to jump in. I didn't know what's the protocol.
No, jump in.
No, this is an open floor. You just can do whatever you
sometimes,
want.
Yeah, and sometimes people want to have more structure, so I didn't want to just jump in.
I don't care.
I feel like I'm just one of those types of people where I feel like talking about the manager moving on shouldn't be so taboo. I think in this fan base, we got to a certain point where if you even mentioned potentially moving on from Mikel, it was sacrilegious or something. It was people would get really upset. And I just feel like when you haven't won a major trophy in 20 years, you have to continuously look at where you are and say okay, are we actually moving towards that direction? And Mikel did a really good job rebuilding the club, but we're totally out of that era now. We're in the can you win us major trophies? And I think what hurts Mikel is that in the last 5 years, we've kind of neglected domestic cups. We haven't really gotten into any finals. The context around the way that we lost that first year was really damaging. And so I think there's a lot of antsiness. And now it's get the big trophy or go for a lot of people. And I'm not the type of person that's going to sit there and say, yeah, he has to win the Premier League, knowing that if you watch the Premier League all your life or since you've been able to watch it, the best team almost always wins. Leicester was a blip, and then you had City, kind of, falling off, and then Liverpool winning in that COVID season. No offense to Liverpool, they were great still, but over a 38-game period, the best team usually wins. That team has a world-class manager with world-class players, lots of experience, lots of talent. Do I think bar for bar we're the best team in the league? No. We don't have a world-class striker. We still have major gaps in the team, and Pep and Mikel are so far away from each other. So I think
I would argue against that, but fine.
Huh?
I would argue against that. Last season, I thought the teams were neck to neck.
Yeah.
It's not equal. It was very fine margins, a referee decision here, or a luck here, or a luck there. It wasn't like Liverpool and Man City in the 1920 season, where Liverpool were by far the better team in the league, or the Centurion. Like, I thought that you were neck to neck. Yeah, people at the end, Man City nicked it, but I'm not gonna say, oh, there was a big difference. If not, it was just a small margins, and these small margins.
But
they go Man City's way because Pep is a better manager, as you said, than Arteta. But at the same time, I have to give credit to Arsenal last season. They were arguably one of the best teams, if not like equal to Man City, because you can't tell me that one game or a decision here. Me and Martin had this talk all the time.
I agree that it wasn't that big of a gap, but I still think the better team won. But then we turned around this past summer and didn't do enough to push us over the line. And I think even if we probably won't win the Premier League this season, but if you had turned around and got a striker and a top winger, and improved the team the way that you were meant to, I think people could respect that even if you don't win versus what we did. I think you just can't double down like that. You can't already not be the best team and then turn around and do what we did last summer. So I understand the frustration. I think it's fine to be frustrated and talk about whether or not Mikel is the guy to take us to the next level. And it could just be the case where he was the person that was meant to help us build the team, and there's somebody else that can take us over the line. And it shouldn't be that big of a deal. It doesn't mean you hate him. Doesn't mean you want to kick Mikel's dog. None of that. It's just sometimes you need to move forward. And I think
we also need to take, sorry, Jess, I think we also need to take into account the probability of the other side of the equation happening, where we do get rid of Arteta and it turns out, hey, you're looking at a gift horse in the mouth, or you threw the baby out with the bathwater, pick your metaphor, but we may find ourselves in a worse situation and unable to go back to where we currently are, which is still a pretty good situation. Like, arguably, we haven't gone backward. I feel like we've had a bad run at the start of this season. You could make a lot of excuses about schedules and injuries and poor player decisions to get sent off for really simple stuff. So I think it's kind of too soon to even really be like discussing this kind of thing for me, because a lot of his performance has to come in the Champions League. Like, that's where I'm expecting, much better performance next time around, not going out to someone like Bayern. Like, we need to see these improvements, and it's too early to really judge, 11 games after the Premier League season. And then if we go the other way and say, okay, Arteta out now and don't back the team, then there's zero chance of winning anything for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Well, what I was just going to say quickly was, I think the expectation this season has been higher than probably ever since we've moved to the Emirates Stadium. And I think it's a situation where Arsenal fans expected us to challenge for the title as a minimum, to challenge for it. And obviously the start that we've had after the first 13 games, there's a lot of Arsenal fans that have, questioned the manager and why we've gone backwards. And, you can look at the fixtures. You can look at, we faced the most top teams out of any other team in the Premier League. We've gone to most of away games this season. We've had injury problems. You can bring so many excuses, but the bare minimum for me, especially, that I've expected this club is style of football, and we haven't had that this season. And I think that's probably got to do with Odegaard being injured. But I was looking at Arsenal's top goal scorers in all competitions this season. It's Kai Havertz is number one with 6 goals, and then it's Bukayo Saka, and the third top goal scorer in our club this season, all competitions, Ethan Nwaneri, and he's a 17-year-old, with 3 goals. So where are the goals coming from? We have to question our senior players, like Martinelli now is a senior player, he's not a kid anymore. Trossard, Gabriel Jesus, all these senior players, we need to start questioning them and saying to them, why you've been at this club long enough now, and why you're not turning up now. And we can't keep on going, round in circles and speaking about next season's. It's next season. Some Arsenal fans like me are tired of, looking at next season, and, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I've got big questions with this manager this season.
But looking at the, which is, I'm going to bring Brendan, you can turn your phone the other way if it works. Looking now, you're renewing Trossard contract, right? That is what is going on. You are looking at Isak, who might be not attainable. And instead of looking now in this January transfer window to strengthen the part that you're lacking, which is go and get someone with a big personality up top, left winger or a striker, whatever you want, and then try to win the league from there. Try to go on a run. And instead of focusing, like all the reports are saying that Arsenal will focus on Isak. That means they're preparing already for next season. You have to look at this season first instead of looking at next season. This season has not been resolved yet.
That's not how Arsenal operate, though. I feel like this season already, the fact that like during the international break, they're like, oh, they're going to discuss the window and all this kind of stuff. They already know this season. It hasn't gone the way that they thought it was going to go. Isak is an interesting one because there's not an ounce of anything in my body that makes me think we're getting this guy. They got him for 70 million. It's going to cost us 100 and something million to get him. We don't have those type of pockets. We don't have the minerals to do something like that. I know we bought Declan Rice, but we're not going to turn around and do that after 2 years. We're just not. This is why that sporting director is more important than anything else. I don't care about any other conversations. They're not sacking Mikel, whether he comes 10th or 2nd. So no manager change means that sporting director is more important than anything. You need to get somebody in there that can identify talent, that can sell, and that can do these contracts and get some of these guys out. And so personally, like, listen, people are talking to me about this season, asking me about title races and all that. I don't give a damn. Sorry, I cussed, but I don't care about none of that. Who is coming in to tell Mikel no Kai Havertz? Who is coming in to tell him he needs to sell Jesus tomorrow? Like, somebody has got to come in and make the decisions because we're not getting Isak. And we like to do this thing where it's like, we have this one target, and if we don't get them, we don't do anything but get a Sterling. How do we get from Nico Williams to Sterling? Where's the other people in between that? You know,
I never thought about it like this.
In between? I don't get it. So I need a sporting director like I need air. And so does Mikel, because he cannot be trusted. He cannot be trusted. So yeah, the Isak thing, it's nonsense. Like, it really is. And
it's honestly, everywhere, right? It's everywhere.
We're not getting him. Do people understand that Newcastle and Arsenal are at odds even off the pitch? They are not selling us him.
But I think the issue with Isak is that he's not signing a new contract. And I think that runs out soon. I don't know.
Do you know what else was everywhere, Mo? Arsenal want Draxler. Arsenal want Benzema. Arsenal want Higuain. We've seen this all before, bro. Just because there's a load of journalists out there, or so-called journalists, saying Arsenal want Isak, Arsenal want Isak, Arsenal want Isak. Of course, they're going to throw Arsenal and Isak in the same sentence because we desperately need a striker, and it looks like Isak needs a step up. So what can we do? Let's link Isak to Arsenal. It's just it's one of them things, bro. I think we all know that we'll be massively shocked if Isak signs for Arsenal, or if Arsenal even goes and gets Isak,
or any striker. I think fundamentally we're just used to not buying anyone good in January, except for maybe Aubameyang. Can't think of too many others. It was Alexis Sanchez in January. Anyway.
By the way, just breaking news. It's not a 1-year contract extension. Man City just released a statement. Pep Guardiola, he's staying until 2027, not 2026. It's not a 1 year with an option. It's actually a 2-year extension. So
I figured the 1 year with an option, they'll probably take that up anyway. So it's not a huge change to me. But some people are freaking out.
It does affect other people in the league. If this guy gets the funds in the summer, it might be the best chance to win the league when they're down now today. You don't think so?
It's every other year, Mo. I've got the PL and autopilot like in the Man City's pocket.
Yeah, but this is the thing, though, right? This is what I don't like about some of the excuses that our fan base makes, right? Pep Guardiola's just signed a new contract. He will get funds in the summer. I don't believe Pep Guardiola signs a new contract unless he's got guarantees that, you know, he can at least start to bring in fresh players, new ideas, etc., etc. Because I think we can all see that in the last 2 seasons, Manchester City have got, I don't want to say worse, but they've not upgraded on what they originally had. You know,
they need a rebuild. It's very obvious. They need a rebuild. There's Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo. There is a lot of people that are leaving. So.
Exactly. They've got an aging squad, and it's hurting them now. It's hurting them right now because at the end of the day, Rodri being out is a massive miss for them, 100%. But what's made it even worse for them is the fact that they've now got a midfield combined age of 92 years old. They're playing people like Kovacic. They're playing people like Gundogan, who 2 years ago was magnificent for them, but he's also 2 years older now. You know, they're playing people like Nunes, who hasn't really hit the ground running. And then you've got the likes of Jack Grealish, who's constantly out injured. And then not only that, the other thing with Man City as well, 2 years ago, they had the likes of Mahrez, you know, who could come up with goals, assists, and all the rest of it. So it wasn't just Haaland or bust. But now with Man City's front line, there ain't nobody else scoring. Doku don't score goals. Savinho hasn't scored goals. It's literally, if Haaland don't score for City, then nobody scores. And this is why I say, like, the last 2 transfer windows that City have had, they've regressed in a way, and we haven't taken advantage of that, and we should feel it.
You actually got worse this season. Let me just establish that.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Like, when you look at the money that we've spent over the last 5 years and compare it to City, we should be there.
No, but you can't do that because the law. I'm sorry. Over the past 5 years, a lot of people do that against Arteta, but in the same time, he spent that money for you to be here, now talking about winning the Premier League. If you didn't spend that money, you would not have been here talking about I can win the Premier League, right? That is the reality. But Arteta spent that much money, but he spent it to get players to be here, to be spoken about last season as one of the teams that can win the Champions League. Nobody speak about other teams to be able to win the Champions League. Arsenal are, and that's because of the work that has done and the money that is spent. Did he spend money wrong? Yes. So is City. People talk already about Doku being a failure. People already talk about Savinho not being good. People talk about other signings for them not being good. It's the reality of football. You don't get every signing right.
By the way, I totally agree. From where you're coming from, I totally agree. I'm not using the £800 million that we spent to clobber Mikel Arteta. I understand, as well as any other Arsenal fan, that from where we was and the squad that we had, it needed an awful lot of money to be spent on it in order to get ourselves into this position. But what I'm actually trying to say here, Mo, is when you look at City and how they've regressed in terms of their signings, and then you look at what we've spent, how many players we've brought in, who we've brought in, we should be in the conversation because of that.
But you are. But let me ask Jess this. I have had this quote from somebody that actually commented on one of my videos. And guys, there's about 600 people here, or almost 600. Let's get to 200 likes. All the people's channels are in the description as well. Jess's channel, She Knows Arsenal, in the description. So go and subscribe. She's on the way to 30K. Let's get her to 30K. That would be great if we can get her there. Daud as well. People said that Arsenal might peak and go back before they actually win a major trophy. Do you think that can happen if you stay with Mikel Arteta? Or if you keep the same strategy in the transfer market or signing a project like the Arda Güler thing?
I think if we don't make a major shift somewhere, either from coaching or recruitment, if not both, yes, we'll stagnate and go backwards. I think we're already stagnating. We're already just kind of like just twirling around doing nothing. We haven't improved this season. Like you said, you can argue that we've gotten worse. So yeah, I think you have to make changes. You have to constantly be reevaluating what you're doing and asking yourself, is this the direction we should be going in? So yeah, and listen, you have to make some sort of changes. I don't think that you can just stay the same course all the time. Yeah, so I'm down for change. You know, at the end of the season, obviously we'll reevaluate, but like I said, I genuinely don't think like Mikel could do anything that would get him sacked. I think our best opportunity for maybe him to move on, if you want him to move on, is him deciding that he's not good enough for the job. That's pretty much all we have. He will not leave otherwise.
About this season, though, is it salvageable for you, Jess?
Salvageable. I mean, technically, you're not out of the title race, like mathematically or anything like that. So yeah, you could salvage it at this stage without a Premier League trophy. A good season for us would be, at the very minimum, a trophy and get us close enough to the title race where it's not embarrassing. Like if we're in a top 4 scrap, I'm embarrassed. We should not be in a top 4 scrap, you know? So it's salvageable in that way, but I don't know. I really just think
performances. My problem is performances. What performances wise, you need to get back to performing well first.
We did that last season. Last season we started off not worse. We actually started off better than we did this season, and we inched our way back in, but we still won nothing. No finals, nothing. And let's be so real. Not a single one of us thought we were going into that final game and we were going to come out with the title. Let's be so real right now. Not a single one of us. It was all hopium and copium. Let's be serious. So yeah, we could do that, but I don't want to play catch up again and have to be perfect in the back end of the season and then flop it again. I don't want that. I don't feel like we should not be starting off the season bad again. You know, so yeah, we could get better, but I got a bad taste in my mouth about the way that the season started. A really bad.
You got Odegaard back. You have Odegaard back now.
We shouldn't look that bad without Odegaard. We should not look that bad without Odegaard. I cannot unsee the football that was Shakhtar at home.
Yeah, Shakhtar at home was horrific. Not enough people talk about that game. Not enough people talk about that game.
I will. Yeah, my eyes.
Again, it shows
bleeding.
Having Odegaard there. He's not an injury-prone player. Having Odegaard there, you look better than Chelsea. I argue in the game. He created the goal. I thought he was very good. And listen, same as City with Rodri. That is.
Yeah, but Mo, do you not think this is a big problem for Arsenal, right? And what I mean, right, Rodri, yeah, Rodri's different altogether because Rodri, he's just won the Ballon d'Or. Yeah, this guy is top draw. You'd probably say you definitely say he's the best in this position in the world. So when it comes to Rodri being missing, you can understand why it affects City in a way. Also, when you look at the fact, like I pointed out, that their midfield is an aging midfield. When you look at Arsenal,
but isn't that incompetence from City? Like they're in this position of power and they haven't got replacements for these players, and they should have spent money and they didn't. Like no one's giving the same kind of like pressure to Pep for not having a backup to
that's
Rodri.
Because they've won trophies. I feel like you know, but like we haven't won anything.
This is the very top level that you want to be winning the Premier League, right?
Yeah, but what I'm trying to get at is it's slightly different with Arsenal because we had Odegaard out, which is fine. You know, he's our most creative player, you would say, right? But my biggest problem with the manager in particular is he struggles to win games without his first 11. Like Pep Guardiola.
That is wrong. He actually won games without Odegaard being there.
Yeah.
And without Saliba being there.
Yeah, but my point being...
Factually, that is wrong. Factually, that is wrong. He won games.
What do you mean he won games?
He won games without Odegaard. He didn't lose every game without Odegaard and Saliba. You won games.
Yeah, but the way that we struggled through. This is what I'm saying. Like, how do I explain it? I think most of our problems are down to the manager. I think the biggest problem with Arteta is he's an overthinker.
Really?
He's an overthinker, bro. When you look at how Arsenal played 2 seasons ago, you know, the attacking fluid football and all the rest of it, right? And then you compare it to how Arsenal play now. I look at that and I think, right, 2 seasons ago, 8 points clear, 8 games to go, right? What he actually needed to do was build on that. And instead, he kind of got it in his head that we conceded too many goals. That's why we didn't win the league. So he changed our style of play last season. And you see that quite clear as day. You know, we started slowly. We was a bit more reliant on our defensive shape, keeping clean sheets, hitting teams on counter attacks, etc. And now he's kind of gone out in the transfer market and bought players to suit that, but it's also messed us up in the creative sense. So when Odegaard wasn't there, and you've got Rice, Partey, and Marino in the midfield, there is nobody creating. Bukayo Saka is the only person in our front line that can create for others and create for himself. The others, service. And this is
Do you think the problems that we've had winning these games has been players or manager? Because for me, almost every single issue has been a player doing something really stupid.
But you have to, these players are Arteta's players. If you look at
but he coached, say for example, at Man City away, right? Do you feel like he coached maybe like a 2-1 away win there, and then like the last kick of the game, the ball goes in because Kivior's, I don't know, doing something silly, like Trossard getting sent off, Rice getting sent off, Trossard passing it over the back.
It's not the Man City games, though. It's not those games, though. It's like the games that we should be winning, like Bournemouth before before Saliba got sent off, them 30 minutes before he got sent off, we were not winning that game.
No,
I don't know who needs to hear that, but we were not winning that game. You saw the 11. Everybody bitched about it because we saw Marino, Partey, and Rice, and we knew we weren't going to be able to pass a ball to save our life. We knew we weren't going to be able to create a chance. So it's not Man City. Man City is never the reason why you lose the season. Not getting all 3 points away at the Etihad is not a reason why you don't. It's the small games. We can't even beat the smaller teams. We're struggling against Shakhtar at home. That should never happen, even without Odegaard.
Wait, but we lost to Bournemouth for 10 men, but they also beat Man City. Like, just
I don't care what they did against Man City.
These aren't bad teams, is what I'm saying. Like, they're very good teams. Like in the Premier League, going away from home, in the first 30 minutes, you don't dominate the game. It's not the end of the world.
Can I say this one thing, though? I feel like this is the difference, is like, we always have a reason why it's okay for us not to get to where we want to go. It's always, the league is getting better. This team is good. We can't win with 10 men. We can't do this. We can't do anything without Odegaard. There's always a reason. And it's never just the manager didn't do well enough, or the manager can't do this, and the manager is always something else.
It's not one. I'm not saying it's my way. I'm just saying that there's a discussion for it to be not just the manager. Like, I'm not saying it's one way or the other. I'm saying that the players are, and they have to hold themselves responsible. I mean, Trossard missing that chance against Chelsea, he scores that with his eyes closed like 100 times out of 100 normally, and he takes it off Kai's foot, and we don't walk away with a win. So we could be sitting in a very different situation with a few things that have gone our way. We could maybe have like 5
but I can have the same argument, Martin. Me and you had this argument. Young man's son, 1-1, 9 times out of 10 would score that 1-1 against Man City last season, and you'll be sitting here league champion. Isn't that correct? 9 times out of 10, Son is one of the best finishers.
Because of Son stuffed it up. What's the point though, relative to Trossard?
The point is, okay, Trossard 9 times out of 10, he would score that goal. Son the same, and you would be sitting here league champ. It's the same. Is it 9 times out of 10, or you shouldn't have been in that place early against Chelsea?
We should win every game 5-0.
I could name you.
No. Don't take the extreme. Don't take. My point is. Go ahead.
There's people that are Arteta out right now that started the season saying we're going to win the quadruple, right? Like, people get so caught up in the hype of what was going to happen and what the expectations are that they think that we should destroy every team 5-0.
Never said that.
Like, we should just show up on the field and then like automatic points for Arsenal. And that's where we've got to the point these days where we have to win every game, otherwise the league's gone, right? So,
I feel like
we've just got new expectations for this team that aren't realistic sometimes.
In the last 3 seasons, I could name you like so many of those. Trossard gets that every like 9 times out of 10. Because there's always that, because we never really get whooped. That's a big thing, especially the last 2 seasons. We don't get whooped. We don't get 3-4 nils against us or anything like that. It's always close. And when the margins are always close, there's always a way to rationalize why this makes sense. Why it makes sense that, if we do 40 crosses against Inter, if we had just done that again, we would have scored a goal. Like, we always have that because the margins are always close. But if you have that a lot of times and you're still not getting to finals, you're still not winning trophies, you're still not winning the league, you got to look at it in totality and not always, pick it out and always try to pick like the margin where it could have went your way. The reality
you
is,
have to objectively look at a game and go, well, was this game lost because of a player's mistake, or was it bad management? Was there bad substitutions? Was it a poor lineup? Was it, something formation-wise that was really costing? It's like there's ways to objectively analyze games and say, okay, that was a player mistake.
that's the way Arteta be doing his press conferences. That's how he does his press conferences. He picks out if Martinelli had just scored that one goal, why we only have one chance? Why are we spamming 45 crosses against Inter? That is all fundamentally down to the way that he has built his team and the way that he coaches. And as long as the margins, sometimes I love my team down. I would never want this to happen. But sometimes I'd rather the score be 3 or 4-0. So there is no rationalizing it. But as long as those margins are close, y'all can talk. You could always talk it out.
I think if we're being
one chance, I'm done.
There are scenarios that we can sit here. Is the manager's fault? We can sit here and say is the player's fault or moments from the players, right? But I think when you look at the opening 11 fixtures for Arsenal, you look at, okay, we had Odegaard out injured, right, which is a big miss. But he's the only one who's been missing, really. And a couple of defenders, whatever. But, Odegaard being the creative one, he's the one who's been the biggest miss for Arsenal, right? But when you look at individuals, if you've got a squad of 11 players and there's 1 or 2 players that are not playing well, then you can sit there and say that's individuals. That's people that are just not performing very well. But when you've got near on a whole squad not performing at the capabilities that they've shown previously, then you have to sit there and say, well, is it really the individual or is it actually a system, a manager thing? Is it down to the instructions that he's giving them? Is it down to the way that he's setting them up? Is it down to individuals being in the wrong place? Like, for example, against Chelsea, I was watching Gabriel Magalhaes on the left wing. What's he doing there? He's a defender. What's going on here?
He's taking things into his own hands because we don't have Odegaard. I think people don't realize how important Odegaard is, and so when he's not there, they think, oh, it's just a simple case of let's just drop another creative player in there. And why doesn't the team
I understand how important Odegaard is. People were saying we were better without Odegaard, and I was looking at them like they smoked the highest grade of weed I've ever seen. Yeah. I was like, we are nothing without him. That being said, our level should not drop to that level, and that's the nuance of the conversation. It's not just Odegaard out. This makes sense. It does.
That's the thing about Haaland, Jess. To be honest, if Haaland's out, Man City will definitely struggle. That's how important Odegaard.
Yeah, but Man City.
Why are we always comparing to City? We are not City.
Because they are the benchmark.
We have to be.
Okay.
No,
to be honest with you, because they are the benchmark.
But what other team knows like Man City?
Salah.
In Europe. What other teams like
Van
Man City
Dijk.
in Europe?
I'm giving you names. Salah, Van Dijk. I'm giving you plenty. I can give you
that's the reason why Liverpool have only won 1 league title. That's the reason why Liverpool won 1 league title.
Without Salah, guys, you guys think that Liverpool can win games without Salah this season? Have you guys watched Liverpool? It's literally give it to Salah and hopefully he will do the best thing.
Even with Salah, Liverpool have only managed to win 1 league title. You're making it sound like they've won multiple titles and they've done this, they've done that. You can, Man City, they're unique. You can't compare them to any other
because they have the best manager in the league ever.
It's not just the best manager. If they've got 2 players in this position, no other team in Europe has that. Okay, and now you've seen it.
People say that 2 players in this position, but they still have like 3 positions where if they lose a player, there's a
You're actually wrong, Daud. Man City this season don't have any cover for Rodri. You do. Have 2 DMs. They have 1 striker. They have really bad wingers this season. All of them are bad.
I'm confident. If they had Rodri fit, and they lost Haaland, they'll still win the league.
Let me put this argument.
How?
They've done it without Haaland.
Have you watched it?
Yeah, but they don't have Aguero or whatever.
They don't have an
Aguero. They've never done it without Rodri.
Let me put this argument in the bin.
Go ahead.
You put this argument in the bin because everybody's saying Odegaard is so important to Arsenal. Guess what?
Yes.
A 17-year-old kid called Ethan Nwaneri, who every time he come off the bench, threatening player, looked like
now you're talking, Brandon. Now you're talking.
Who could step into that role? Whose fault is it for not playing that player when we was playing the likes of Marino, Thomas Partey, and Rice in the midfield with zero creativity. And then this guy, this 17-year-old lad, who we decided to leave ourselves with, rather than going out and buying somebody else with experience, we decided to let Smith Rowe go. We decided to leave ourselves with this 17-year-old kid, right? He gets 5 minutes, 10 minutes sometimes at the end of every game to come on and try and change it. Why was he not starting?
But that's the whole point where when I go back to like Odegaard out doesn't mean this just makes sense, because you had Nwaneri, you chose to make these decisions, and yes, it's if, ands, or buts. Maybe Nwaneri flops, but you'd at least want to see something different than what you always do. Mikel always goes for the safe option or somebody at a position that he trusts more. He never trusts the player that actually plays that position. He never changes tactics, nothing. He goes in this, he does something weird.
Can I push back against this? Because he actually changed the tactics by playing Trossard and Havertz as forwards many times this season. And that is out of the box.
I'll take out the tactics. He changes his tactics, but he never goes for like, so my example of this would be like going with Rob Holding instead of going with Kivior initially in that first title.
Yeah, the first title push, yeah.
He went with Holding because Holding was the easy option or the safe option.
Yeah.
And Kivior wasn't as damaged as he is now. He had just came from Italy, so he was still fresh. You didn't play him. You played Rob Holding, and you effed around and found out about that.
But you acknowledge that he is still a new manager. He has 5 years experience as a football manager in his career.
Honestly, Mo, it doesn't. That in context, that makes sense. That like in argument, that makes sense. But this is Arsenal, and we are expecting as fans, and people from the outside are expecting us to win. So always going, yeah, he's a young manager. He's a young manager. That just removes that instantly. We didn't have to hire Mikel Arteta. We chose to.
No.
So we escalated him quickly into a position that he didn't have to have. Remember, when we were like looking at managers, there was Ancelotti and Arteta, and we went for Mikel. So just because he's new doesn't mean that all of what we're supposed to be doing just is negated, because he needs to learn on the job.
I would argue this. This is my argument about Mikel Arteta, and always have this about Arsenal. The reason why I said I would take Arteta at Inter. Until this season, Mikel Arteta has always improved tactically.
Yeah.
Talking to the press, the way he relays messages, the way he deals with problems, the way he deals with adversities, he's always improved. This season, something happened in the beginning of the season. I don't know what it is. Right?
Don't you think Arteta's hit his ceiling then? He might have hit his ceiling.
But I don't know. How would I know?
No, he hasn't hit his ceiling.
How would I know?
The thing is,
why would you say? Why?
Because if you look at cup competitions, when it really matters, we haven't really been able to. When there's adversity, like for example, a couple of years ago against Sporting Lisbon in the Europa League, we crumbled. When he came to
did you lose in penalties or something like this?
Yeah, 2 draws.
Not against Sporting Lisbon. We didn't lose on penalties against Sporting
Lisbon. Yeah.
Yeah, we lost on aggregate. I'm talking about in some crucial games.
2 draws and it was on penalties.
No, it was penalties.
He hasn't lost.
No, but that game at the Emirates Stadium. Okay, so in that game, at Emirates Stadium, we were expected to win at home against Sporting Lisbon in the Europa League, and we crumbled. Okay, in the Champions League against Porto last season at home, we got that first goal when Martin Odegaard excellent when he laid it off to Trossard. But after that, we were hanging on, and we couldn't find a way to get that second goal, and we found a way of winning on penalties. Against Bayern Munich, we were lucky to draw that first game at home against Bayern Munich 2-2, because we could have easily lost that game. We crumbled in the first half after 20 minutes, and then when we go away to Bayern Munich, we find no way of winning that game. There was no point playing that game. So in cup competition, last season, Liverpool in the FA Cup 3rd round dominated them, but couldn't find a way of beating Liverpool in the FA Cup. In the Carabao Cup last season against West Ham, we crumbled. We got out against West Ham. We basically we lost. Was it 3-0 or something, or 2-0? Crumbled.
I would argue that West Ham there. It's not the manager's fault.
We are below par. I have not seen my club get to a semi-final in a cup competition in 5 years. Okay,
he hasn't. That doesn't mean that he's reached his ceiling. It just means that I feel like he's hit a wall now that we're no longer in the building phase and we're in the winning phase. And this is a big job at a club
Are you afraid that he might be the next Pochettino?
I'm not afraid of him being because none of that. I'm not looking at him as a Pochettino. Like, I'm not looking at that, because you know what the reality of Mikel Arteta is? He'll go somewhere else and he'll be successful. He needs to know
we don't know that. We don't
making
know
the
that.
mistakes here, and he won't learn that until he leaves. He has, you know what I mean? Like, I genuinely feel like he's the guy that's just
everyone's saying
now
that
and needs to go somewhere else. But him reaching his ceiling, that feels harsh. We know he's really talented, and I feel like this is the nuance of the conversation. He's not a bum. He's not a cone man.
No,
he's
not
none of that. He's a good
He's
top coach.
Terrorist.
But this is like the difference between, like, we're going up against Pep. 9 times out of 10, we're still gonna fail, but like we're still not even close enough, because we're not making finals. We're not winning cups. To me, there's no reason why, just because Pep wins the Premier League every year, why can't we win a cup?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me, to be honest. That doesn't make any sense.
But what doesn't make any sense?
Like, why wouldn't you win the cup? I don't understand this. And just bigger fish to fry thing.
Well, yeah, but exactly. But people are acting like just because we're going up against Pep.
But do you know what the problem is?
It's everything that makes sense. I just feel like it's not about Mikel's ceiling. It's about where we are as a club. We need somebody probably different.
No, but
but you know the reality is you're actually past the cup phase. Actually, as a football club,
we're not past the cup thing. And I'll tell you, I have a reason for that. I know people are like, winning a domestic cup is not going to change anything, and it won't. The vision of the club is not going to change.
Doesn't keep him in the job. He already passed that. He should have won that 2 years ago.
But still, like, it's not about keeping him in the job with a cup. It's just, you still should be winning things, even if you're going up against Pep for the title. And we're not even getting to finals. We're barely scratching the surface of the club that we need to be. So I'm not saying if he wins a cup, he's going to keep the job. He's going to keep the job regardless, or he should keep the job. But I'm just saying that in the context of trying to decipher whether or not this is where we should be, and whether going up against Pep means that everything that's happening makes sense, it doesn't, because Pep doesn't win all 4 competitions every year. He doesn't.
No, he doesn't. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
We're in the last 4 of the Carabao, so we can get excited about that, right? Is that 2 games?
You know what? I think Arteta needs a Carabao Cup.
I'll take one.
You take one. I'll actually think. If you sign a big personality, I think that would change things. What I mean by big personality, and people just don't take this serious. A big personality of a football player, someone that is not nice. The majority of the Arsenal team are very nice.
No, but Arteta won't allow that. He won't allow a signing.
You know what I mean by you're very nice. Like, Arsenal are a very nice team.
But
generally, they are. The players are the only one that has a fight in him is Havertz, and he isn't even that caliber of a player that would lead the team, lead the fire to make you win. Most of the teams that win historically have this fight in them. The people that it's my game. You know what I mean? Like, a player that steps on the pitch and everyone is around that guy. That is what you need. Like, even someone like Rodri, he's not nice. Saka, brilliant as he is, X factor, he's too nice. He's young, he's too nice. Odegaard, nice. Martinelli, even Declan Rice is just a nice guy on the pitch, you know.
Yeah.
It's just
He's
that
talking
guy.
about fundamentally an Arsenal problem, not just this team.
It is. It's always been that. But do you want me to remind you of the names that you had that they were? One of the biggest example is Thierry Henry. I remember the Real Madrid game where, like, he's like, you're going to play around me. It's not your game. It's my game. And you have to manage me. At Inter, we had players like these guys. We had Schneider. We had Milito. We had Eto'o. Barcelona, they had these guys. Real Madrid have these guys.
Those players don't exist anymore. That's the thing.
They do. What do you mean? They do.
They're not the same, but there's versions of those players.
No, but I'm talking about the managers now, upcoming managers, the young managers. They don't like players with big personalities, because what they want in teams. Look, let me explain it to you.
Go ahead.
When you have players that listen to all the instructions, like players like Martinelli, like Saka, like Havertz, they will run hundreds of miles for you. They won't complain. Okay, they won't question the manager when there's, they won't shout.
Nobody said question the manager though.
No, but what I'm saying is top players, they have the personality to sometimes question the manager and sometimes to think or question their own players. So we don't have players that argue with each other. We don't have players mid-game, telling each other what's happening. When things get tough, Okay, we don't have those kind of players. That's
but that's what I mean. You know, who's that? You know, I believe in the league.
Having an ego and knowing that you're going to score that goal and that you're that guy does not also equal being a dick to the freaking manager, though.
Yes,
because
100%.
Explain Salah to me. Explain Mo Salah to me.
So how many times does Salah argue with Jurgen Klopp? How many times?
Why is that a problem? I
no,
don't understand.
We don't have that in our team.
Mo Salah is not known as a Zlatan type of person, though. Like, the odd argument with Klopp does not make him like this. I think this is the thing, is like, as Arsenal fans, we've conditioned ourselves to think that a player with personality means that they're going to disrupt the dressing room. And that's not true.
No,
that's what we've.
That's not true.
Isak is like, I see Isak in Newcastle stepping out of line to do things that I don't think the manager. Someone with that personality, a big personality that would do something out of the box, like someone that would.
Yeah.
There are players around like these in the world. You know what I mean? Like, there are players. It doesn't have to be all fight for each other. Yeah, we're good. We follow the manager. There are players around there, and I don't think Arsenal have that personality. To be honest with you, on the pitch, even Saka as an X factor, he can be marked out of the game. He wouldn't do anything different.
You can just start with a player that's confident in front of goal. We can just start there. Yeah, like, we don't even need Zlatan or Balotelli or Diego. We don't need any of those types of players. We need somebody just in general that's confident in front of goal. Let's start there. We have Martinelli, who knows what he's going to be like on the day, and Gabriel Jesus and Kai Havertz. Let's just start with somebody that when they get in front of the goal, they know they're probably going to score.
Gabriel Jesus, he said to Arteta, he said in that interview before we signed him, I'm not a striker. He didn't want to play up front. He said in that interview for Brazil, I prefer to play on the right than to play up front. And Mikel Arteta obviously knew about that interview and still signed him to play him up front. Kai Havertz wasn't bought as a striker. He was bought as a number 8. And obviously after a while, realized...
By striker.
No, but the thing is, Arteta, for some reason, in the last 5 to 7 years, or 5 years, or whatever, how long he's been here for, hasn't signed an out-and-out goal scorer. And we need to know why. We need to know why he does not want a striker that wants to be in the box and, is hungry for goals. He loves those strikers that come into midfield and link up strikers, and I don't understand why. He needs to explain to us why.
I think there's evidence there. This is where I'm kind of on the same page as what Daud's trying to say, right? I think there was evidence there to suggest that Mikel Arteta can't work with big ego players. Now, everybody can argue with me about whether they was good enough or whether they wasn't good enough, but we've got evidence to suggest that Arteta don't like players with big egos. Guendouzi, binned him. Aubameyang, binned him. Lacazette, binned him. Now, whether they was good enough or not is irrelevant, but them 3 players in particular had a bit of an ego about them, something different about them. They were quite,
an aura.
Emi Martinez. Emi Martinez.
You can't tell me that Emi Martinez is better than David Raya, with all due respect.
but he's not. No, I hear that. I get what you're saying.
Emi Martinez, he wants to be the number 1, but obviously Mikel Arteta didn't see him as that number 1, and I'm not sure if they had an argument or whatever. But he obviously saw himself as that number 1 and obviously left.
Or maybe the sporting director will fix that. Maybe that's what Jess was saying in the beginning of the show. Like, the sporting director will keep him in check. Maybe we'll keep him in check.
There's no way.
Somebody that's going to check him. He needs somebody that's going to say, you're getting a striker. You are getting a striker. Stop trying to make your job harder than what it needs to be. You're getting a striker.
Don't you think Arteta now, he's got a lot more power than before? Because Arsenal were desperate to give him that contract. Arsenal were desperate to give him that contract before the season started. They've given him more responsibilities than ever. And I think now that Edu's gone, he's gonna say to the board or the owners, he's gonna have a kind of more of an impact on who the next sporting director comes in, because this is his team. this is his squad and everything. So he's not going to let a sporting director come in and say, I'm going to bring this, and that player in, and him not agreeing with it. So I think now we've gone past the stage of, bringing a sporting director to, put Arteta in his place. I think he's
you
slowly...
aren't telling me that you're going to get a sporting director after Arteta's approval of the guy. This is his boss.
I'm worried. I'm worried that Arteta slowly evolving to, the new Arsene Wenger.
To be a manager.
I'm worried about that as well, but this is why, like, we could... Honestly, this is like the biggest turning point. If they absorb that position and make them into like a Mikel's assistant or hire Rosicky or Per Mertesacker, we are effed. We're done. Because
do people think the sporting director should be the boss of the manager?
Because it's not about them being the boss.
I don't see that in the same kind of
they need to be able to work together, but somebody is in charge of recruitment. They can give him like options of what he wants, but he can't have one option and then not want anything else. He needs to be more flexible. He's so rigid. And then he also needs somebody that's going to tell him, no Kai Havertz. Nobody in the recruitment
team. You're so against Kai Havertz. It's so strange.
Mo loves it.
I'm so against Kai Havertz. No, I love this, bro. I love that someone
look at the players that we've signed. Most of them, not most of them, but a lot of those players Arteta has worked with previously. Like the 3 players from Man City, Sterling, Gabriel Jesus, Zinchenko, he worked with them. Jorginho, he's admired Jorginho for years. He wanted him at the club. Calafiori, he said in interviews, watching him for a whole year before he came in, he wanted him. Mikel Merino, obviously from Real Sociedad, got connections there. He really wanted him. There's a lot of players where Mikel Arteta has had a massive impact, and I want to know who are the signings that Edu's actually made, and I want to know if Edu had more of an impact on more signings than Arteta, but if Arteta has had more impact on who he's wanted, then if the next sporting director comes in, Arteta's always going to have more power than the sporting director. He's going to have more influence with the board. It's because they can see that there's more money coming into the club. There's rumors that we might extend the stadium and increase the capacity, and now obviously bring in more revenue to the club. And that's what the main thing. That's what for the owners. The owners, if they're seeing money coming in and them making profit, and we're still succeeding, getting top 4, challenge for the title, there's absolutely no way they're going to get rid of the manager. And the only way we get rid of the manager is when we start, finishing outside the top 4, losing money. That's the only way they'll get rid of the manager.
He'll leave when he wants to leave.
It starts.
He's not going to get sacked.
It does start from the top, and this is where the problem has lied, right? Because the Cronkies are the type of owners that don't really influence what happens within the football club. They kind of they hire the manager, the sporting director, whatever, and they just kind of leave them to their own devices, right? And that's what I think's happened. But what they've done, or the mistake that they made, is they hired a manager with no experience, and they hired a sporting director with very little to no experience. Jess is 100% right. Whoever comes in that sporting director role has to have had experience, has to have a backbone in order to say, when Jess says no Kai Havertz, what she means by that is there was rumours that there were a lot of board members at Arsenal that wasn't with the Kai Havertz signing. It was Mikel Arteta that ended up pushing that one through and getting his own way. So you need somebody who's going to come in with experience, with a backbone, tell the manager where he's going wrong, what kind of players he should be signing, etc., etc., etc. At the end of the day, if you're putting somebody in a role and in a position to go and sign players, yes, the manager should have a say in who he brings in. But in my opinion, Arteta is having too much of a say. And we're going very close now to this becoming an Arteta dictatorship, a bit like how it was when we had Arsene Wenger. And we don't want that. Modern day football isn't or shouldn't be like that. Look at Manchester United, for example, right? After Alex Ferguson, they decided to stick with the same thing. The manager is in charge of the football club. They didn't have a structure, and it hurt them massively. Only now are Manchester United having a structure where the manager isn't the manager no more. He's just the coach. Arsenal started that with Arteta, but then they made him the manager, and now he has more and more and more. And each year that he's here, it seems like he's getting more and more and more power.
I actually disagree with you. I think actually the fans, he might be getting more power, but I think the fans are starting to turn, and the fans are starting to see the light.
But we don't want to end up in a position where, let's say, for example, he doesn't win anything this season, but we know Arsenal are going to stick with him anyway, right? Let's say, because he's got a 3-year contract, let's say for the next 3 years, we gradually go backwards and we end up in a position where, you know, even the board sit there and go, do you know what? Maybe we have to get rid of this guy. That could become a very difficult transition if he's got as much power as what we think he has.
I think they part ways, Brendan. If he finishes third this season, I think they will part ways. One way or the other, it will be a mutual agreement. Because I know that match-going fans will be annoyed.
I don't think they will.
Match-going fans, I think, are actually more okay with what's going on.
No, actually, because I do shows with a lot of people that go to the games. I'm sure I know other people do. They are starting to question. They were like, we're so happy. Martin has actually explained it very well. He said, him and Rory, they said, we are so happy that we wake up every day, watch our team, and we know that our team is going to win. It's not a depressing every day. Rory's saying we go to games knowing that we're going to dominate, we're going to win. Dylan said that when he came on the channel before. But once that is taken away from the match-going fans and you aren't as dominant, you aren't winning, you aren't challenging for something, I think the fans in the stadium are going to find it hard to like, okay, why am I going? This is Arsenal Football Club. I'm going to win games, not to be third or fourth. I'm going to challenge for the title, which is why, Martin, you explained it very well the other day. You said, the journey now is I'm going to win the title. I have hope of winning the title, rather than I'm just watching the game with no hope. And I think that will turn once, if he isn't challenging for the title, if February comes in and Arsenal are far from the title, the match-going fans are like, what is the point? Why are we here? It would be the same as Emery. Why are we here? Or 8th or 5th. I remember the boos. He was booed in the stadium when he was 8th. Right? That would be the same situation now because they're accustomed to Arsenal dominating. People go in the stadium accustomed to Arsenal winning games.
Martin, you go to games?
No, he doesn't.
No, you don't?
No, I'm in Canada or in Australia most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah, but he was explaining why would he wait.
The last time I went, it wasn't, I mean, obviously it was a while ago. But people were very like,
even this season in the beginning they were happy, Jess, and then I am hearing more criticism than I used to hear last season or in the beginning of the season. Let me do a couple of these super chats just to off beta professor says Sam Lee, Pep not 1 but 2 years extension. Oh yeah, the Premier League. This is I don't know how people are taking this. Liverpool fans don't care. Arsenal fans, there is kind of like an annoying, like people are annoyed on Twitter. Arsenal fans, they renewed 2 years because they thought Arteta would dominate after him. There's no after him now. He might outlast Arteta.
Yeah. Well, I think people will say that they want to beat Pep while he's here, and you don't want to just wait for Pep to leave and then like win a title. But we've got to worry about being in a title race with anyone.
Exactly. Yeah. JJ saying, why are Arsenal fans afraid to fire managers? I think even Jess asked that question. It should be okay.
It should not be that deep.
It should be. But as I explained, I think the biggest problem that we've got is, like I said, the owners don't really run the club in that type of way. And I think providing that he qualifies for Champions League, they will probably give him another go, you know, because they've proven that before anyway. And also,
let me do the rest of them before you elaborate.
I do think that it'd be a difficult transition from Mikel Arteta to the next one because of the way that we're set up behind the scenes.
It might not be very. By the way, that Arne Slot thing proved that it might not be difficult at all.
Yeah.
You might get your own Arne Slot. It might be as simple
look at Liverpool. They wanted
Almiron.
They couldn't afford him, and they turned around and got the next guy, and it still worked out. It's almost like having multiple targets and not being afraid to pivot to something else actually works. Maybe
or having world-class players that have already won the Premier League in your squad.
But
yeah, I mean, you could look at that. Maybe actually buying the players that you need before the season starts that we've been asking for helps you out. Maybe a striker would help.
They didn't buy
Maybe another midfielder would help.
But they have better players. They have better players.
They do have better players, but we've had multiple opportunities, 2 windows, in fact, well, 4 if you count January, but we don't do anything in January. We've had windows to address some of these things. No, you're not going to buy a Van Dijk. Van Dijk and Trent and Salah are 1 of 1, but you cannot buy Havertz.
You're so
You see what I'm saying?
Havertz is part of the team that performed so well last year. Like,
let me
You see what I'm saying?
completely rewrite the history on Havertz because.
let me do the Havertz. Let me do the Havertz thing in a bit. W's for Nafisa. Thank you, Nafisa. Thank you so much, sister, for this. Appreciate you so much for the support and the super chat. W's for Nafisa, guys. Big up Mo and all the panelists. Like the video and subscribe, people. Guys, hit that like button. We got over 500 people here. We can get to 300 likes. We need a major trophy. We will take the domestic trophy, but that is not the standard. Yeah, which is what we're talking about, Nafisa. Like, cups are not enough.
Basically, if we fall out of the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup, there'll be tears for like weeks. But if we win either of them, then there won't be any celebrations. We'll just be like, let's go.
I'll be celebrating. What y'all mean?
There's some people that want to win these cups, but then when we win them, they'll be like, "Oh, it's not good enough."
As Arsenal fans, we can be a little arrogant when it comes to silverware. As a club that doesn't win it very often, we should take it more serious. And if we do win it, we should celebrate it. Doesn't mean that Arteta needs to keep his job for it or anything like that. But more than anything, these players need to understand what it feels like to win. I don't even care. It's like not even really about Mikel anyway. This group of players has not won anything. A lot of them haven't won anything in their career. So they need to get into the mindset and figure out what winning is like. Doesn't mean that this means they win the Premier League next season, but they haven't won anything. And I think about that too. They're becoming really good losers.
They won the Community Shield. It's good for some people. Just
I wish we took that more serious because every other league calls that a Super Cup, and we act like it's a charity thingy. So
because it was a charity thing, there were more subs allowed than the regulations of FIFA.
We also be a Super Cup. We should call it a Super Cup too. We should.
And they should have the same regulations in the normal games, not more subs. And it's like they made it like this in the Premier League. They just decided, well, we don't care. You have 3 subs, we're gonna have 5 here. You can sub the whole team at halftime, and we'll just get together and celebrate together and share medals and stuff. It was just a joke. Emmanuel is saying, no shot. Raya is better than Emi Martinez. Crazy take, Mo. Emmanuel, with all due respect, David Raya is better than Emi Martinez. Emi Martinez is the shit house, and he just, because he's the cool guy and people like his shit housery, people think he's a good goalkeeper. The guy, save percentage, worse than Raya. Distribution, worse than Raya. Concedes more goals, keeps less clean sheets. Facts are facts. Because he won the World Cup with the guitar jail card, Lionel Messi, doesn't make him a better goalkeeper than David Raya. With all due respect.
The difference that some people see is that in big moments, when Argentina was struggling, Emi Martinez turned. It wasn't like he was doing nothing the whole game, the whole tournament. He turned. He was the reason why they won the World Cup when he made that save against Colomboani in that final with that last shot of the game. So
I've seen. With all due respect, Daud, I've seen League 2 goalkeepers do triple saves and in the moments of that great. It doesn't mean that.
It's not just those moments. Penalty shootout. Or when it comes to penalty shootout in cup competitions. Emi Martinez for me is one of the best goalkeepers in Europe.
So let me ask you a question. So you think Emi Martinez is a goalkeeper? Would you take him above David Raya?
No, because we spent enough money now. We spent
no. Straight swap. Don't twist the question. Don't twist the question. Straight swap tomorrow. David Raya or Emi Martinez? Answer the question. You spent 10 minutes making a case for Emi Martinez.
No. I'm saying we can't just dismiss Emi Martinez like
I'm not dismissing him. I never said he's
You're
bad.
talking about save percentages. You're talking about distribution. I'm talking about is that a goalkeeper can have, like Onana, can have amazing, he can pass amazing, you can have the highest percentage of passing, but when it comes to shot stopping, Onana's terrible. When it comes to being an actual, a guy...
You're deflecting and waffling and you're drowning.
No,
by the minute, though.
There's more to the game than just passing, okay, as a goalkeeper. There's other
but the saves, like Emi Martinez, I've seen him this season let in some ridiculous shots. Like, I don't think he's as good as everyone, like the hype says.
You know what? If Daud thinks that Emi Martinez was better, he would have said yes without even trying to go to Onana.
Let's not pretend like David Raya didn't save our blushes against Porto. Like, he saved penalties. He also saved us against Atalanta. Like,
this season.
Yeah, this season. David Raya is one of those protected players to me. I'm not saying nothing about him because let's be so real. There's some things that he's done this season that's kept us from being even farther down than we should be. this season for sure. So yeah, Martinez is a really good goalkeeper, but like we need more personality further up the pitch. I think we're fine actually at the back. Our defenders actually, they could have looked at our players last season and said, we did not lose the title. You did, because they were the best in the league. Couldn't have got any better than our defense last season. So it's not about that.
To be honest,
it's really about those players up further up to me.
Why are people in the chat talk about Emi Martinez being better because he won a World Cup? Okay, so Mustafi is better than Van Dijk. Like, what are we doing here? Lol. He literally responded to
that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense.
I'll say it that
It
way.
does.
But
That's extreme, but I get what they're saying.
But Daud, she has to go to the extreme to explain the point that him having that moment in the World Cup doesn't make him a better goalkeeper.
No, I didn't say it was just
never
that
had that moment in the World
he had a
Cup.
massive impact. like the penalty shoot against Holland when he saved numerous penalties. You're making it sound like it was just the final that he made that great save. He had a massive impact. There's a reason why
Enzo Fernandez was phenomenal at the World Cup.
No, there's a reason why since he became Argentina's first choice goalkeeper, they won 2 Copa Americas and they won the World Cup. Okay, and without
what's Aston Villa won though?
Say again?
What's Aston Villa won?
No, but Aston Villa right now are doing so well in the Champions League. They're progressing as what they were previously under Steven Gerrard. Under Steven Gerrard, what they are right now under Unai Emery is night and day. And so
the Gerrard tax, like that was
the laps that they've done.
Never been in relegation area.
But the leaps that they've done from being a team that everyone's mocking under Steven Gerrard to what they are now, a very good top 4 team, a very good. They're not in the Champions League to take part. I think they're serious in the Champions League. They've beaten Bayern Munich. They've won a lot of big games. So for me, I'm not disrespecting Emi Martinez. For me, Martinez in big moments, Aston Villa will be able to rely on him.
I'm not disrespecting him, but I think that David Raya has proved me wrong when I said that Ramsdale was good. David Raya has been.
You should have had me on the channel back then. We would have fought for hours.
He was not bad. Ramsdale, I thought Ramsdale would be a disaster for Arsenal. He turned out to be all right. Like, people make it as Ramsdale was a horrific goalkeeper for Arsenal.
He wasn't really horrific. Good for the most part until he. I
thought the majority of the time he was good. He was making saves. His distribution was not the worst. He made mistakes. He had bozo moments. Maybe he's not a winning title goalkeeper, but he wasn't. With all the respect, he wasn't that bad. Like people make it like he was the reason you lost the title. Maybe not. It was Mikel Arteta, but that's a different story. Kai Havertz was asked one quality of a teammate he would like. And he said Saliba's defending, even the number 9 is a terrorist.
That's what I mean.
Did he say that?
I saw that and I was like,
you know what? Well, I have one of my viewers always super chat this and says that Kai Havertz is the best defensive striker in the Premier League. It's a phenomenal take.
That's what Pep was saying about Gabriel Jesus too. Before, like right after they sold him to us, he's one of the best defensive forwards you could ever find.
Well, when he's selling Gyökeres and Isak, he's going to have to learn how to do something else. So might as well be defending.
Maybe warm out the bench. Maybe. Yeah, and Akhi, chill. Raya helped us be in 10th. Raya statistically is better.
Helped us being 10th.
Yeah. That's what Jess was saying. He literally said this season you could have had 4 points less.
I never once said I'd rather have Emi Martinez. I never said that. But Raya, I rate him highly. He's a top goalkeeper.
It's funny how many players we do actually have that are quite good, but Edu did apparently a very poor job, and Arteta can't pick players.
Do you know? Very good segue, Martin. How many actually good players the Arsenal have now? Like actually very, very good. I'm not going to do the world class thing. You know why?
Right? 10
week
plus.
To week.
10 plus.
Yeah. Very good players.
Very good players.
Yeah.
Probably
Saka,
Odegaard, Rice,
Saliba.
Rice. That is the thing. Rice, very good. What happened?
Gabriel,
Ben White.
Very good. I like Ben White.
Very good player.
Timber.
Thomas Partey.
Calafiori.
Raya.
So the only thing that is missing is literally a left winger and a striker. That's it.
Pretty much.
From this team.
And we've needed it for like 2 seasons. That's what I'm saying.
It's actually crazy.
We've also needed a left aid.
You know what? I haven't asked why the defense this season has been bad. And I'm saying it's bad.
Injuries and the defense side.
No, even with Saliba and Gabriel playing, they have been bad. The positioning is bad. No. Daud, the positioning is bad.
I have a diagnosis for it, but I would go first. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the reason why is because there's a lot of games this season when we have not been able to kill the game off, and we've had to rely on our defense. And obviously, our defense sometimes has had some, lapse of concentration. We've conceded a lot of goals where it comes out of nowhere. But there's a reason why I said at the beginning of the stream, our top goal scorers this season has been Kai Havertz with 6 goals, Saka with 4 goals, and Ethan Nwaneri with 3 goals. So we're not scoring enough goals. We're not killing the game off enough. And then that obviously, when you don't kill the game off, that gives the opposition more confidence to think, okay, we're only 1-0 down. We're only 2-0 down. It's the 60th minute. We can actually push and go for it. And that is a major problem. And if the attackers are not killing the game off, that puts more pressure on the defense. And that was a problem. And I think if there's a lot of games, if we were 2-3-0 up, the opposition team basically gives up, and the defense has easy moments, and obviously injuries has had other impact and suspensions. And I think that's the problem. We haven't had the consistency of the back four that we've had last season. And I think changing the formation as well, playing Thomas Partey right back, moving into midfield. We've had Calafiori at left back, who this is his first season with the team. Zinchenko being injured.
Timber's had consistent injuries, hasn't been able to play 90 minutes.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of factors.
I think when Liverpool scored against us to equalise with that Salah goal, we had Partey right back, Ben White centre right back, we had Kivior left centre back, and Miles Lewis-Skelly left back, right? So we've started maybe the games with a good, and then we've got injured during the game or someone sent off, and by the end of it, we're looking at a patchwork.
We also give up more chances and more goals anyway when Partey plays at the 6. He's not as good defensively as shielding the back line as Declan Rice. That's just the truth.
But you know that this is going to continue. As long as Thomas Partey is fit, I know that Mikel Arteta is going to play Thomas Partey at the 6. For whatever reason that is, he's going to
be right back.
In certain games, Mo.
I actually think Partey will move to right back now. It's the perfect scenario for Mikel Arteta to get his cake and eat it too. Mikel, I think, struggles to make those big decisions sometimes. And so, having Ben White injured gives him the opportunity to move Partey to right back, which is something that he did unprovoked last season at the beginning he did that for he wanted to do that. He didn't have to. And then so he can play Declan and Marino
right backs, right?
and Odegaard. That's what I think he's going to do.
You think your midfield is going to be Odegaard, Moreno, and Declan Rice as a 3 midfielder?
But it does. Our midfield is always a fullback inverting. I don't even care how we start. Our midfield is always someone inverting, and whoever's left center mid is doing something completely different. So he's always wanted this. He's always wanted to have a midfielder inverting from the back. He's obsessed with it, and this gives him a good opportunity to do it. He obviously trusts Partey at right back.
He's still stuck there. Pep Guardiola moved on from this. Liverpool moved on, and he's still stuck there. He's like, it's 2021. I'm playing an inverted fullback still. We all watch us play. There's never a time where somebody is not inverted inside. I think when Calafiori and Ben White played, there was no inverting. When Ben White and Calafiori played, there's not much inverting. Calafiori
was galloping through the center of the pitch like a horse.
Sometimes, but not like Thomas Partey when Thomas Partey is right back. He's definitely a John Stones.
A defender, but he wants that inversion.
But we need to be unpredictable, right? And if you've got 4 defenders and you've got 90% possession, you don't need that. You need players that can go and attack and change the defensive structure when you can attack. So I don't know. I think we want that, but we also have to pay the penalty sometimes for players being out of position. It's just fundamental.
What about that? Okay, so this is the last part before we end the show, and I don't want to keep people for long. Good players capable of title-winning squad: Saka, Odegaard, Rice, Saliba, Timber, Gabriel. Rest are above average or average. What?
Average is very, very harsh. That is very harsh, because average you're talking about players that they'll be able to play for teams like Bournemouth, Newcastle.
You wish you have a couple of Bournemouth players now. Semenyo maybe can do a job for you on the left.
Yeah, they can do a job.
That guy goes to a top team. It's going to be so funny because that guy is not good enough.
Really? I think it's very good.
He's the typical mid-table baller that needs to stay exactly where he's at. He needs to stay exactly where he's at. I said what I said.
He's going to go to a top team next summer, right?
But if he comes to Arsenal, he's world class.
Somebody will pay a stupid fee. And hopefully it's not us. He's not good enough. Sorry.
I actually think that Thomas Partey as a 6 is very good. He's a different player than Declan Rice, but I think he's very good. He's one of the best at the 6, to be honest. He's actually the progression with the ball, the way he passes the ball forward. I think he's very, very good at it. The problem is he just defensively, he's not a defender like Declan Rice. Declan Rice is literally just a defensive midfielder that does the tackles and the interceptions. That's what he does.
Yeah,
and he's good at it.
What we need Thomas Partey and Declan Rice to morph into one player. Because what Thomas Partey is good at, Declan Rice isn't. And what Declan Rice is good at, Thomas Partey isn't.
Yeah, but Declan Rice played very well at the 8 in the last part of last season. He was amazing in the left end.
He was playing with Jorginho. I think
and Odegaard helped him very much.
People were forgetting that he was playing with Jorginho. He was not playing with Partey. We play differently. When Partey's there, he's like on an island by himself. Rice is like really far away from him. When Jorginho and Rice play together, they play closer. And I don't know why Arteta doesn't do that. But genuinely, a lot of our problems...
is more athletic. Because Thomas Partey is way more athletic than Jorginho.
He's not. I'm so sorry.
He's way more athletic than Jorginho.
This season he's been.
Jorginho and Partey are the same athleticism at this point.
No, I'm not having this.
At this point, they are the same.
Jorginho and Thomas Partey are the same athleticism.
Yes.
No.
Oh, yes.
Don't you think after the season with Partey, the Premier League?
Have you seen Jorginho try and run when someone gets past him? He's like,
athlete all the time, okay?
And then
Partey is 50, okay?
He's been much better this season. He's actually been semi-fit.
But can you remember the game Thomas Partey against Liverpool against Diaz, where he pocketed Diaz basically the whole game? Jorginho wouldn't be able to do that playing at right back. And I think Partey this season, he's proved me wrong when it comes to his ability to play 90-minute games. He's played more 90-minute games. He's played more minutes this season than he did the whole of last season. I think Partey, he might be playing for a new contract because his contract is up at the end of the season. And I might be worried because if Partey gets a new contract and then a week after he starts having injury problems, you know this guy's playing for a contract now. And for me, he surprised me a lot. I think this season he's played a lot of games, especially when we had 10 men against Man City. He played absolutely fantastic. He played 10 men against Bournemouth when he played the whole game. He's played in numerous games at Brighton when we had 10 men. You know, Partey for me has proved me wrong. And I think that's
been your best midfielder this season, without a shadow of a doubt. When we did team of the season, we all the Chelsea fans, everyone, we agreed to put Thomas, like combined 11 and stuff. Thomas Partey is there. He has been very
There's a lot
consistent.
of baggage in that conversation that doesn't, Arsenal fans are.
I'll be so real.
I know that you're traumatized.
I don't care what he does this season. No new contract. I don't care.
They're going to give him a new contract, then
No, absolutely not. Well, first of all, he's playing in the position that you spent £100 million on a player for. So we need to. Why are you going to put all your eggs into the basket of a 50-year-old instead of a 26-year-old? I don't get that. And besides the off the field nonsense that we won't talk about, for me personally, it's just like, just buy a left center mid. If you just get the left center mid you were meant to have, yeah.
It's Moreno. I thought that was Moreno again.
Moreno.
Is that?
No.
Can we go? Why do I have? Why did summer 2023 again? It's summer 2023 again.
I mean, we bought, how many left backs have we bought? How many goalkeepers have we bought? We continuously buy the same thing because we're not just solving the problem. Just buy a left center mid that can do all the stuff that you're desperate for your 6 to do. I'm sorry, Fabinho couldn't pass the ball at all. He was just breaking ankles and he did a good job at it. You don't need a Regista at your 6. It is a choice. You don't have to.
I know that.
No, but I think he wants like horses for courses, like different players. Like we saw Jorginho and Rice play well together in against the big teams when they were going to come onto us and we needed to have a ball over the top to get out, and Rice could do like pure defending and that kind of stuff. I think that he wants to have that assortment of players that you put them together in a different kind of way and you've got a different kind of play. So fundamentally, I think that needs time to work, and Marino hasn't had that time yet. But he's had glimpses of really good performances, and he's had glimpses of poor performances. So we need to get the best performances out of everyone.
He's not that bad. I like Marino. I like Marino
too. Yeah.
He's not going to be like Messi on the left eight.
Let's do the last couple of super chats before we get out of here. Jess is right. Declan Rice absolutely shined in the 6 first half of the season last year, and when Jorginho came in, they worked well together. Yeah, he won 8 man of the matches at the 6, which is actually crazy if you think about it.
With Kai Havertz in midfield,
Yeah,
holding him
he was
down like an
carrying
anchor.
that. Yeah, he was carrying that midfield. But Declan Rice is a bad player. That's what people like to say. How are you saying that? I literally say and defend Declan Rice as a 6.
No. I thought you said that Kai was terrible in the midfield.
Kai wasn't a midfielder. He's not good. He's not good in the midfield.
No, but you said that you had Kai holding it down in the midfield or something a second ago.
I said Kai was holding him down like an anchor.
Oh,
he
like
he was still
not
playing.
holding it down. He was the
no,
anchor.
he was holding him down like an anchor.
I wouldn't want to see Kai Havertz in midfield. Forget that.
You know, some people just talk about him indirecting Declan Rice that he wants a better 6 in the last interview.
I got the perception that he said about in different games he'll play different 6s. And I think in certain games,
it's actually crazy. Actually,
in certain games where teams are more playing a low block, I think it's better to play Thomas Partey in that midfield because he can have that line breaking pass. And I think in teams against teams where the game's more stretched and you can play more more counter-attacking style of football, you play Rice as the number 6. And I think it's amazing to have that kind of options as a manager, where in certain games you've got a player you can play in one game, another play. Like not many managers have that ability and have that option. So I'd rather have both of them in my team than have only one of them.
I actually disagree. I actually think your 6 need to be your 6 and it needs to be the starting 6 because you build everything around that 6. Every team in the history, every team in the history of the sport, their 6 has not changed.
Fabinho didn't do everything.
You don't have to do. And by the way, but this notion is that, oh my God, when against low blocks, my 6 needs to play line breaking passing. No, it's not his job. It's the other midfielder's job or the winger's job. It's not his job to do. It's just.
I think that those players are so few far in between. Like someone who's so good defensively and offensively, like Rodri, they just don't grow on trees.
Yeah. You can't find him everywhere. Partey was good 2 seasons ago. The age is certainly catching up. Aditya, he has been your best midfielder this season. So you can't say that. He's literally been. If you put Jorginho instead of Partey last game, you lose 100% against Chelsea. Without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
Jorginho should have been not renewed. It's very simple.
No. Jorginho's only there for.
Jorginho ain't doing nothing but just cheerleading from the side.
It's just vibes. It's vibes and chill.
It's not vibes. It's vibes. It's called experience.
He's the manager from the place where I don't know if you've seen this, but when they go and warm up, players normally warm up on the side. Jorginho's there like screaming instructions at the players because he's that much closer. He's like he's second Arteta on the sideline.
Oh my God. I don't like him.
Jorginho's not hurting us or anything.
No, he's not. But people want an upgrade.
I don't like Jorginho.
Mo hates it. That's right.
Oh yeah, you got beef or something.
Martinelli. I don't like his style of play. He's so overrated. He's one of the most overrated defensive midfielders to ever play the game.
Really?
Don't get him started.
Yeah, it's 100%. We're not starting there. I've had a lot of rants about this, but
Jorginho.
Martinelli, Jesus, Trossard, Zini, Tierney, Kivior all need to go. Need to buy a left winger and a striker. Center back backup. You literally have 5 center backs.
No more
center back.
Partey
long-term replacement. Partey's long-term replacement is Declan Rice. Is the £110 million player. That is the long-term replacement.
Oh my goodness. The sooner we get to Declan Rice at the 6 and we just leave him there, the faster we will prosper.
What happens when Rice gets injured?
That's why you have Jorginho, right? That's why.
Everybody has players in your team where if they get injured, you have to maneuver. It's not that, to me, it's like whatever. Like it really is. First of all, you have Miles Lewis-Skelly coming through, who's a CDM, and you also have Marino that can play that position kind of. We don't need to have 10 6s. What is this woke nonsense?
No. What I'm saying is, I'd rather keep a player for another year or two and not really have to spend money getting another midfielder and reinvest that money on a number 8 or left winger or striker instead of buying another midfielder in for no reason.
But you can't keep Thomas Partey as a backup on 200 and something thousand pounds a week.
Yeah, 100%.
You have to.
I don't think. But I think that at the age he's right now, I don't think he'll be demanding £200,000 a week.
You think Thomas Partey is going to lower his wages?
He might do.
Thomas Partey is going to go to Saudi or get a contract at Arsenal that is the same. He's
he's
not.
not
We
gonna
don't
lower
know,
his
we don't
wages
know.
for us.
I think that
That's
we're
why
going to
he's
renew
playing
players
good.
to sell them. I think that we're going to renew Trossard. He's only on 90K a week right now, so he'll probably
Yeah.
get like 100.
To be honest, they're going to give him 150, and I think that's
Yeah.
too much for Trossard for his role at the team. That's
But
too
there's
much. For
talk of
Trossard.
selling him anyway, so I think we just want to like bump him up and get the better price tag for the sale. We'll probably do the same with Partey because you can't really let him go for free. He's like at least, a $30 million player, I'd say still. So
I'd say more than that.
I was just going low so that I
You'll
wouldn't
be
have to-
lucky to get 15 million for Thomas Partey.
I just said that
15.
earlier. We got
You'll be
15
lucky to get
million.
15 million for Thomas
be
Partey.
No. Come on now.
Guys,
come
what world are you living in? You're not Chelsea. You barely sell players. What is going on?
No.
Yeah,
I'm going to
yeah.
if he was on a longer
Yeah.
contract, if he was on a longer
Waiting for
contract,
the
the
call.
reason why he's not going for more is because of the injury record. If he could stay fit,
Well, he's 31 and his
he'd
contract's
be a
only
40, 50
Anyway,
million pound player easily.
Do you know
Brem's
how old
just
is
been
Thomas
sitting there shaking his
Partey?
head for 5 minutes.
Anyway, listen. Thomas
He's
Partey is
so
about to be
disappointed.
32 in the summer. You're going to tell me you're going to get 30
Allegedly.
million? Allegedly.
30 million for a 32-year-old nowadays is, especially in that position, he can play for another at least 2 or 3 seasons at the highest level.
We won't get.
You literally just said that he's playing well this season, but his legs are gone. You just say that.
When did I say legs are gone?
It's not
I
you.
said
No, he said
Who
he
said that?
apologized because he
No,
thought
I
Ah.
didn't. I said he proved me wrong with his him staying fit this season. That's what proved me wrong.
Anyway, listen, people. Before we end the show, I want to thank everyone that joined. Jess's channel is in the description. Dawood's channel is in the description as well. Go and support the guys. Of course, Dawood does a lot of shorts and a lot of TikToks. Also, if you want to follow Dawood on TikTok, it's Dawood on TikTok. Does a lot of work there. And Jess is now going back on the horse of streaming every day. So go and support her. She's doing a lot of Arsenal work as well. And also, she does a lot of work outside with the, I can't pronounce the NW.
NWSL, La Liga.
NW and La Liga and a lot of work. So follow her on Instagram, Twitter as well. You have TikTok.
I do, but I'm too old for
No.
that. So
Yeah, all right.
don't follow it. Too old for it.
All right. So just go. You'll find everything in her channel. Get her to 30K. And I want to thank everyone that joined us. Hit that like button before you go. Aditya with the last super chat. If Rice is not is a number 6, then need a top class 8. We need 3 midfielders if Partey leaves. yeah. Okay. Which just you're
What
gonna
is this
keep.
math?
This is how, bro. You have Moreno, Odegaard, and Rice. If Partey leaves and Jorginho leaves, you might need 2, but that's it. Anyway, I want to thank everyone that is here. I'm not streaming again today. I'm out. Tomorrow's the National League at 2 and a City stream at 8 p.m. UK time. I'm doing a City stream and people complain that I don't do enough City talk, but I will do City talk. Let's celebrate with them a little bit. Thank you, everyone that was here. Thank you, Nafisa, for supporting the channel. Aditya, Papa Beard, of course, for supporting the channel, of course. And Emmanuel, Off Meta Professor JJ for supporting the channel. I want to appreciate you guys. And I will see you guys soon. And we are out. Unless we redirect into somebody, we're not. Yes, we can. Sorry, guys. Just need to redirect to someone. Just so the redirect doesn't go to waste. You go. We can redirect to this guy. To Martin. We'll see you guys. We're out of here.